Hey guys, in this video, I want to walk you through some business optimization techniques that I have used over the years to not only analyze my own business, but also the thousands of businesses that I've audited over the years. And typically what happens is someone will come to me with some sort of frustration. Either they're having a really tough time marketing their business, so they have a lot of high cost per leads, or their cost per call is too high, or they can't get enough book calls. And that is pretty common. So if you're feeling that way, I don't want you to feel bad. You're welcome to the crowd, right? What I want to do is I want to walk you through a series of flow charts that I've created, and I will drop a link to these down below so that you can download these and have them to kind of reference in the future. I want to walk you through this, and I want to show you exactly how I make decisions and how I help my clients make decisions when it comes to running into problems with their business, because it's inevitable. Right? No matter how big your business gets, you're going to have problems. You're going to run into bottlenecks. You're going to run into dips, and you'll have high points and low points. And I call it the emotional entrepreneur roller coaster. I think someone wrote a book about it a long time ago. Let's dive in. So I'm going to start with high cost per lead, because these are the two main problems. You either have a high cost per lead or you have a high cost per call. That's typically leading to a high cost for acquisition, one way or the other. I will say this. I actually would focus on optimizing my cost per call before I would worry about a lead. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're getting a $2 lead, but you're only closing 10 people. If I were to show you how to get a $20 lead and close 30 people, would you be okay paying for a higher lead? Of course you would. So it's not all about cost per lead, but I do want to cover it because I want to talk about this and help you make decisions so you can optimize your business. Because ideally what you have is a low cost per lead and a low cost per call. And that, guys, is something that you absolutely can scale. So very first thing, and this might seem sort of obvious to you, but believe it or not, I have audited a lot of businesses who don't have proper tracking in place. So that's the very first thing. Are you tracking for a quality lead event? And what I mean by that is there are some people who are running ads just to DM, for example. Every person who becomes a direct message, every person who sends a message and clicks that link, they're calling that a lead. That's not what I would call a quality lead. There are also people who are running ads, traffic ads or lead form ads, and someone who fills out a lead form ad, and I know it sounds a little crazy, they fill out a lead form ad, they never go to your website though. You're calling that a lead. I don't necessarily call that a high quality event either. You want quality, not necessarily quantity. I can get you a 25-cent lead. I can target, certain countries and just have them do a lead form. We can get really cheap leads for you, but that's not what you want. What you want are quality, high intent leads. And the way that you do that, we'll talk about lead magnet in a second, but you certainly want to make sure that you're putting your pixel in the right place. So I would put it beyond some sort of gated content on your site. So a funnel page, so they have to opt into something, a quiz, a calculator, something that they have to fill out and they have high intent to do it. You don't fire that lead pixel until you've gotten that result. Now that might lead to a higher cost per lead, but it's going to lead to a better quality lead. Okay. So let's assume that your tracking is not in place. You obviously want to fix that and implement it the way I said. If it is in place, now we need to identify, okay, where's the break? It's either in your CPMs, cost per impression, or your cost per click, your CTR, so click-through rate, your landing page conversion rate, or your cost per qualified lead. Okay, so we're going to diagnose these things essentially. So let's assume I'm going to take it from least important to most important. So the least important is your high CPM, cost per click. These aren't as important because, again, if you're getting sales and you're getting people to book calls, you could have a really high CPM. But there are some things that you want to try to do across the board here to try to lower and optimize all of these. So a CPM is going to tell you, are you connecting with your audience, or are you getting people's attention, right? And attention is expensive. So you want to fix the creative that you're using. Creative is not just the image or the video, but it's also the copy in your ads. Really, really important. And this is true with organic as well. If you're not getting people to engage and get attention, then you have to pay attention to that creative. The audience signal is what the audience is telling you. Okay, look at the content that your ads are putting out there and which ones are getting low CPMs and low cost per clicks, and they have a high click-through rate and they lead to good quality leads. The algorithm for your ad account wants more of that. The mistake that I see a lot of business owners making is they're trying to duplicate what other ads are doing. Now, you certainly can do that to test. I'm not saying you need to be completely original. I don't think I've ever had an original thought in my life. Okay, R&D, rob and duplicate. I learned that from one of my old mentors, Bill Bergfeld, a long time ago. It's the fastest way to ideate. Take what other people are doing and use it as a starting point for sure. But just because something works in someone else's ad account may not work for you. Okay, you have to understand that. So the style of the ads, the style of the creative, the copy that you're using, you're going to have to test different variations. So if you do have a high CPM and a high CPC, then you definitely want to try some different creative and test that to try to connect better with your audience. So here are some of the quick fixes. A stronger first 3-second hook, a sharper hook, more straight to the point, call out your audience directly, more proof, of course, in your ads can definitely help, a better problem statement. And like I mentioned, you're testing new angles. So the name of the game with CPMs and having really effective ads is understanding your target audience, what they're struggling with, what they're dealing with, the problems that they're having. The reason that I feel like I'm very effective at communicating with people and helping them is because I know where they're at, right? I've helped so many different types of businesses that I can have someone fill out a form and I can identify very quickly where the holes are in their business, and I can speak to their pain points and their frustrations very easily because I know my target audience. So it's really, really important that you know that. Okay, so let's move on. Let's say, okay, you got your high CPMs, you're addressing that. Now you got a low click-through rate. This is where people see your ads. You might be lowering your CPM, but they're just not clicking. Low CTR in our space, if you're below 1%, I'd say even below 2%. If you're below 1.5, I'll give you some grace. If you're below 1.5, you need to fix your messaging and your hooks, okay? So this is where, again, we want to take that creative even further, narrow down the pain, name the desired outcome, make the promise very specific, maybe match the ad to the audience awareness. So if you followed Eugene Swartz, problem aware, solution aware, where are they in that journey? And make sure your ads are speaking the right language so it's congruent throughout. Then we move on to the page. Okay. A lot of people forget about this. Congruency is a big thing. So people they see it, you've gotten their attention, they've clicked on it, but they don't convert. So a low conversion rate is below 20% for cold traffic. And that means we need to fix the page and possibly even the offer. So tightening the page and the congruency is important. One of the things that I see a lot of people doing is they're advertising one thing, and then when you land on the opt-in page or the landing page, it's completely different. Like it doesn't make any sense, or it's kind of similar, vaguely similar, but you're really just lazy at that point. Don't do that. You want congruency. So what is said in the ad, the headline really should be almost identical, if not the same, that's on the landing page. Okay. Try to reduce a little bit of friction. Now be careful with this. Remember, you don't want cheap leads. You want inexpensive, high quality leads. There's a difference between the two, right? If you just have their email, that's all you're asking for, I tend to find you get a lower quality, lower intent lead, whereas you ask for their name, their email, their phone number, and maybe even like their social handle or like their LinkedIn profile. Depends on, if you're a business B2B coach, for example, you might have their LinkedIn profile as an option for them to put in. And maybe you make that one optional. If you're like a social media manager and you're teaching social content, maybe you have a place for them to put their social profile, their Instagram, make it optional. If you work with businesses and you're a B2B coach, maybe you have a place for them you ask them what their current revenue is. So maybe you have some additional questions, but if you already have a lot of questions on your opt-in page, then maybe you reduce some of those and reduce the friction while also trying to make sure you keep a handle on quality. Having proof on your page is always helpful. It doesn't need to be like a VSL proof page. It could just be a strip of like logos that you've worked with, or a couple of different little mini testimonials from past clients, even just screenshot kind of things from social. Those work fine. And then the other thing is the stronger lead magnet, okay? Down below this video, I'm going to put a link to my Lead Magnet OS course. It's a very affordable course, but it's going to show you how to use vibe coding and really back-end optimization to create a really powerful personalized lead magnet so you can create custom lead magnets that get people results and really lead to quality leads. Okay, so those are the three core areas. So we've checked lead quality, we've found the break at the top of the funnel, so to speak. But what we also need to do is a third step. Now we need to make sure that the quality is good and that we also have a sales follow through, a process. See, a lot of people think, just marketing is just getting the attention. That is true. That's technically the definition of advertising and marketing. However, you as a business owner, or you as the CMO of your company or the marketing director of your company, you have a responsibility to help see the process through. Now, you can't train the sales team. You're not the sales manager. You shouldn't be doing that. Your founder should, or the sales manager should. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're following a complete process here. So we're going to ask the question, are leads cheap but poor quality? If they are cheap and poor quality, then we need to tighten the qualification. We need to raise the bar with some of the language in the ads. I call it removing curiosity only creative. So, you say as little as you possibly can on the lead magnet and just to get them to opt in. That's not always a good thing. Letting people know what they're getting into and who it's for and what they're going to get out of it is important. And you want to optimize this process for a book call. So the whole thing can be really handled at the very beginning when you're fixing the tracking. And here's what I mean. When you say, if you've gone through my Elite Marketer Academy and you've gone through the paid traffic mastery, one of the things we teach in there is picking your lead objective, okay? Your lead objective is all about telling Meta what you want to optimize for. So do you want to optimize for leads? You want to optimize for a book call. So hopefully you have a lot of data that you're feeding back. You've went through that course and you've got pixels on the right places in your site and you're sending Meta all the right data back. And you've got enough book calls coming in where you can, instead of running for a lead pixel or a lead objective, you run for a scheduled objective. Now, here's the thing. It's an opt-in page. It's meant to generate leads, but because you have a lot of book call data, you can optimize your ad account and the campaign objective to run for a scheduled book call instead of a lead objective. So your leads might be a little bit more expensive, but what that ultimately is going to do is it's going to raise the bar with quality. Okay, remember, don't always be so focused on the cost per lead, but focus on the quality of the lead. Now, let's assume that your leads are fine, but CPL is still high. This is where you simply just don't worry about it. You improve the conversion efficiency and you scale the winners carefully. So it's just what I just said. Okay. Maybe you optimize for that book call. You tighten all of you optimize here where you can. So in some cases you might have a low CPM and a low CTR, but your page conversion rate is below 20%. So in that case, you're fine with the ad part of it. So now you need to optimize here. Or maybe you have a really good optimization on your page, but you're just not getting enough people to see it. And then, so you might just need to optimize on one or two areas. Okay. So to sum up, got expensive clicks, fix the creative. You got cheap clicks, but expensive leads, fix the page or the offer. Cheap leads, but weak sales, fix qualification and targeting and your campaign objectives. And if everything is mediocre, that's where you need to rebuild the lead magnet. I'd highly encourage you to go through the Lead Magnet OS course because it's going to help you get a much clearer perspective on why you're probably not getting the best results from your leads is because of the intent of the lead and what you're putting people through. PDFs and ebooks, they can get you cheap leads, but they're going to bring you cheap leads. Okay. The game has changed. Consumers are a lot more savvy than they used to be. They don't want more information. What they want is transformation. And that course can help you go through that process. So hopefully that's useful. In the next video, I'm going to dive into optimizing for book call. So I'll see you in that one.